Hello again. With this chapter, we begin to explore some of the elements that will go into a blended learning design, starting first with a broad survey of the technologies available to you and the general activities supported by them. A more detailed look at the activities themselves will be given later on in this guidebook. But first, let's talk about what we mean by the word technology here. This chapter begins by asking you to consider a fairly broad definition of technology, one that goes beyond the hardware and beyond the networking equipment to include software, applications, learning systems, and even the artifacts created by the learners. Under this broader definition, your list of educational technologies may include any tool or system used to solve an educational problem, whether that problem is how to manage the learning environment, how to deliver content, how to connect learners to each other, or how learners can express their ideas and knowledge. The notion that technologies solve problems is important here. We said earlier, technologies introduced for technology's sake alone is not enough to create effective blended learning. The technology must have an educational purpose. Otherwise, that learning element could probably be better served through in-person learning. But the notion of problems is important for a second reason. Individual brand name technologies come and go. The social network that is popular today may be replaced by another tomorrow, or the technology may suddenly become obsolete. But the problems we face in education tend to change more slowly, and by learning to identify the problems that can be solved through technology, we can much more easily adapt our course or program when those technologies change. Once we've looked at this broader concept of technology, the rest of the chapter presents a range of common technologies in blended learning. If you're an individual teacher, some of these technologies you may be able to select, while others might already have been selected for you. But it will still be useful for you to consider the role that technology will play in your course or program. The centerpiece for most blended learning is the learning management system. We introduce it here and then discuss it further in the next chapter as well. The learning management system is often installed at the institutional level and is a complete end-to-end system to support your course, including registration and administration, content delivery, communication and collaboration spaces, the assessment tools, and even analysis to track your class over time. Working through such large, complex systems usually requires a fair amount of support for both you and your learners, as we've discussed earlier when we looked at readiness assessment. However, if you don't already have a learning management system set up for you, there are much smaller and simpler alternatives suitable for a single class. The main problem to be solved by a learning management system is that you have a space where you can organize the online components of your blended course or program. As you read through this section of the chapter, you'll find some examples, some of the benefits, some of the issues you should consider, as you will for all the technologies in this chapter. The other large system that may become a central piece of your blended course or program is a web conferencing system that allows your learners to collaborate with each other in real time. If you've been to or held a webinar with novice online learners, you'll probably have a good sense of the additional level of support you may have to provide. We go into more detail here on some of the challenges and issues that come with this technology. However, it's just as important to realize how significant a role web conferencing can play in your blended learning design. Remember, an online class is not simply a face-to-face class moved onto the web. In fact, you'll find some students participating in entirely different ways online, whether it is due to the immediacy of sitting directly in front of the screen or the wide range of ways to interact through chat, polls, whiteboard annotations, breakout rooms, and of course the microphone or webcam. We discuss web conferencing further when we look at synchronous activities later in this guidebook. The rest of the chapter goes on to look at various other technologies that may play a role in your blended course or program. Digital textbooks, blogs and wikis, social bookmarking, mashups, or digital storytelling, simulations, games, virtual worlds, e-portfolios, etc. This is, of course, not a complete list of possible technologies. They've been selected to illustrate the range of possible applications of technology to meet your larger learning goals. Some of these technologies are fairly passive, such as digital textbooks or some forms of simulation. However, you'll note that most of them are designed to promote active learning, creativity, and higher order learning, such as synthesizing research, personal expression, and multimedia elements into a digital storytelling project. We outlined earlier why active learning is so important in blended courses and programs. And although we can only give quick sketches of possible applications here, I hope you'll find this overview of learning technologies inspiring, and that you will search out, create, and of course share examples of your own for the technologies that interest you the most. So go ahead and explore the world of technologies for blended learning.